So I want to welcome you and encourage you to come on in and take your seat. So this past week, a few students have emailed and said, "Is my submission online working?" Because there's no grade. That was mostly with the business idea submission for the students enrolled for 2 credit hours. If you ran into that, check it again. If you did submit something, it should be showing a grade at this point. Those should be up to date, right up to what was submitted last night at midnight. So they normally take about 2 weeks to be up to date, but I have them all right now just so you can double check it. Also, for those students enrolled for 2 credit hours in this class, I wanted to commend you. We have every week business ideas submitted, and there are some awesome business ideas. I know you're just submitting them as an assignment for credit in the class, but if you're serious about any of those business ideas, several of them were really good ideas that I thought, wow, that's creative and that's pretty innovative, and I think you might could go somewhere with that. We ought to look into it. So if any of you are serious beyond just submitting an idea for an assignment, you're welcome to stop into my office anytime, and I'll walk you through what I would walk any client through to consider the ideas that you've been submitting. But I do compliment you on those. Some great ideas. So today it's our pleasure to hear from Mr. Gary Ramos. And Mr. Ramos has a rich and varied background. I'm going to let him tell you about that rich and varied background, but I'll touch on a couple of things. He does have a background in high-tech electronic equipment and gaming device design and manufacturing. During his tenure as president and CEO of Advanced Manufacturing and Development in California, the company was twice named to Inc. magazine's list of the 500 fastest growing companies in the United States. Then, as president and CEO of Atlantic Entertainment International, he achieved the first worldwide certification of gaming management software. And we're fortunate to have Mr. Ramos living here now in Sanpete County. He and his wife Maureen reside here in Ephraim, Utah, and they have 10 children and 41 grandchildren. I'm going to go ahead and turn the mic over to Mr. Gary Ramos.
Thank you very much. Can everybody hear me okay? There's a great looking group here. I really appreciate this opportunity to be here with you. How much did you guys have to pay to get into this presentation? How much? It was free? You didn't pay anything. Well, that's good, because if you leave here and said, man, I didn't get anything out of that presentation, you got what you didn't pay for. First of all, I'd like to know who the group is I'm talking to. How many entrepreneurs do we have in? Raise your hands. How many prospective entrepreneurs? That's good. How many normal people? Do we have any bankers? No bankers? Oh. Welcome. I always like at least one person I can offend in any presentation, and so we appreciate having the bankers here. So, first of all, can anyone tell me what the difference is between an entrepreneur and a normal person? Well, most normal people, I say most, not all of them, work to live. Entrepreneurs, most of them, live to work. So if you don't like working, and if you're not willing to put some effort into it, you're probably a normal person. And there's nothing wrong with being a normal person. Because I can tell you, being an entrepreneur is not easy. It sounds fun, it sounds interesting, and I tell you, I wouldn't change my life for anything. But I got to tell you, it's difficult. There's a lot of work, a lot of worry, a lot of stress. It could make you age early. Now, thank goodness I'm not one of those people. I'm 27 and I feel really, really good. But seriously, it's a tough business, but it's a rewarding business. And that's what this country was founded on, is entrepreneurship. And without entrepreneurs and new ones coming in, this country wouldn't be the country it can be. So I appreciate this opportunity to be here and hope that I might inspire you a little bit to follow your dreams and become an entrepreneur. Now, I'm not going to tell you how to open a business or what kind of business to open or any of those kinds of things. What I hope to let you know today is what's necessary for you as an individual to be sure that you have that entrepreneurial spirit, because it really takes some special attributes to be able to do that. Not everyone can be an entrepreneur, and not everyone wants to be an entrepreneur. But for those of you who do, I hope we'll be able to cover those things. A little background, and I know you're going to say, oh, here's this old guy who's going to tell us about this old business stuff, and you know, back in the day, you know, he was going to be this back in those years where he was successful and everything, but things have changed, right? I mean, technology has changed. My gosh, it's unbelievable. And I started my first business, my first major business anyway. We didn't have the internet. We had encyclopedias. We didn't have cell phones. We had landlines. We didn't have email. We had snail mail. We didn't text. We actually talked to people. We didn't have those things. And I'm saying that those things are great, and those things are changing, and those things are tools that you'll be able to use to be able to have a better chance to be successful in whatever kind of business you want to be into. Because the businesses I'm going to talk about, you may not be interested in. And I don't blame you. My businesses may not be your businesses. Your businesses may not be my business. But it doesn't make any difference, because a true entrepreneur is in the business of being in business. I'll repeat that. A true entrepreneur is in business to be in business. That's what it is. That's what your business is, and it changes, and mine changed dramatically. When I first started out, I started at a very early age, and you're going to think, well, yeah, it's my buggy whip company. Well, it was, because that wasn't very successful. After the advent of the automobile, my buggy whip business just failed. And so I started another business. My dad worked about 4 blocks down the street. One day my mother told me, hey, take this donut down to your dad for his break. I was 7 years old, 1954. 19, not 18, 1954. So I went down over there with my donut, and I gave it to my dad, and one of the guys over there says, hey, kid, you got any more of those donuts? I said, nope. Oh, too bad, because we'd buy one from you. Because I was walking back the 1.5 miles back to my house. Back then, they let 7-year-olds walk a long ways. Nobody cared. And so I went back in there, and I kind of told my mom what happened. And I said, could you loan me some money? She was also my personal banker, by the way. And so I said, could you loan me some money? Because I want to go buy these donuts. I want to go sell them. So those guys said they want to buy some of these donuts. And so I want to be able to do that. Well, she had worked at the bank. She's working at the bank at the time. She looked at me and she says, well, I need a 5-year business plan, P&L, pro forma. I looked at my mom and I thought, what? She goes, you know what? I've known you your whole life. I'll go ahead and make it a loan. So she loaned me the 36 cents. And I took that 36 cents and I went down to the bakery, and it said, and I went over there, and it was 36 cents for a dozen donuts. So I got all my donuts, and I went down over to the place, and how much for the donuts? 10 cents. Oh, man, that's pretty steep. I said, well, bakery's 2 miles away. Go get them yourself. I sold out. I got every day I was back there with those donuts. By the end of the summer, I was the wealthiest 7-year-old in the whole block. That was the beginning. A few years later, when I was 14, my father passed away. My mother had switched jobs. She worked at the Ford Credit Union. Went over there one day. They had an open house. They were showing the new concept car for the Ford Mustang in 1961. Went to look at this thing. Wow, I couldn't wait for the Mustang to come out. That's a whole nother story. When it came out, it didn't look anything like the concept car. Back then, it looked like something, the concept car looked like something that George Jetson would drive. You guys don't even know who George Jetson is, do you? All right, anyway, it was cool. Way cooler than the Mustang. But she worked in the credit union, and she took care of cars that had been repossessed. And so I remember going through, and we showed around. They had the open house, and I said, Mom, look at this 56 Mercury back here. Yeah, it got repossessed. And I said, man, it's kind of dirty. Why don't you tell your boss that for $3 I'll wash it, clean out the inside, and wax it. Probably have a better chance to sell it. Boss thought it was a good idea. She brought the car home that Friday. I cleaned it, washed it up. Man, it looked good. I said, Mom, how much you selling this car for? We got to get $425 for it. Wow, that sounded like a great buy to me. So she went to go visit a neighbor. I jumped at the car, drove it down to 4 blocks to Lincoln Avenue, Main Street there in San Jose. It's 14. Drove it down over there, parked over there. In 20 minutes, guy came up and says, hey, kid, is this your car? I said, no, it's my mom's. He says, how much you want for it? I said, $650. Man, that's kind of steep. I'll give you $600. I said, oh. My mom says you wouldn't take a penny less than $625. Okay, it's a deal. I'll see you on Monday, because banks then were closed on Saturdays, and so she said, I'll see you on Monday. So I drove the car home, jumped down, and said, hey, Mom, I sold the Mercury. She goes, what do you mean you sold the Mercury? This is not our car. And I said, well, can't you buy it on Monday? I don't have $425. I said, I got it sold. My uncle happened to be there. My uncle's been an entrepreneur his whole life. Actually, he was a professional gambler, but that's an entrepreneur in his own thing. And so he's over there. He goes, well, how much you need? I said, $425. Wow. So, okay, I'll give it to you. He says, because I got it sold for $625. Bam, sold the car, did the paperwork, $200. My mom was making $75 a week at that time. $200. End of the summer, I sold 15 cars. Problem was, I got a letter from the DMV. Mr. Ramos, it's come to our attention that you've sold 15 cars. We'd like to see your dealer's license. Anyway, that put me out of the car business. But I knew that was something I enjoyed doing, and it was just fun to sell. I love selling. Well, as fate would have it, I went through high school and decided, what do we want to do? You know, in a yearbook, you have to put in the bottom, what do you want to be? Okay? I put I wanted to be a fireman. Firemanship. That's what I wanted to be, a fireman. I thought that was the coolest thing, because I know some firemen, and they like only work 4 days, and then they're off a bunch of days. But I just thought it was cool to be a fireman. Every kid wants to be a fireman, so I thought I'd be a fireman. Unfortunately, I played football in high school. Blew out my knees, both of them. Then I thought they were okay, put them back in again and start playing baseball, blew them out again. There's 2 good things and 1 bad thing. The bad thing was the fire department wouldn't take anybody with bad knees. The good news was either with the military right in the middle of the Vietnam War. So I got a break. Anyway, I went to work, and I couldn't be a fireman, so I really didn't know what to do. So I decided I just had to find a job. And I found a job at a company called Trailmobile. They manufactured truck trailers, big semi-truck trailers. And I went to work in the metal department. Didn't have a clue, but it was a job. It was a good job, union job, paid good wages, $2.27 an hour. I was killing it. So I'm working over there, and things were going pretty good. A few months go by, and I decided that I was going to get married. I was 19 years old. Going to get married. So we got married, moved into a little 1-bedroom apartment, $90 a month. That was great. And we were in there, and then a few months later, my wife says, we're going to have a baby. Oh, man, that's going to be tough. No insurance back then. That's okay. So we decided we'd do it, but I couldn't live in this crummy little apartment. So I decided I'm going to buy a house. I had some money saved up from my car days and a few other things through high school, and so I decided to buy a house. I bought a home. $18,300. Whew, it was tough. And no payments, $147 a month. Didn't know how I was going to do it, making $2.27 an hour, but I was determined to do it. I was going to make it. I buy the house. 2 months after I buy the house, I get laid off. Brand new house. I'm laid off. My wife's pregnant. I'm doomed. What was I going to do? It was the Thursday. I got home. That night, I just, as I was driving back, I said, man, first of all, how am I going to tell my wife? Number two, how am I going to make my house payment? What am I going to do? I hate this. I didn't do anything wrong. I was a good worker. I really was. But for some reason, the company had to make cutbacks, and I had to go. I'm out of a job. Completely out of my control. I'm out of a job. I get home, so the first thing I started doing when I got home, I said, I've got to find something. I'm going to network. We didn't call it networking back there because I'm not even sure they had networks back then. I started talking to everybody I knew. I went to one of my neighbors and said, I'll get you a job. I think they're hiring at the little company I'm working with. They need a shop helper. I said, I'll take the job. What does it pay? I don't know. Went to the interview on Friday, got hired, started Monday morning at $2 an hour. My job was cleaning toilets, sweeping the floors, lifting heavy objects. That's what it was. But I had no choice. I had no choice. I needed to work. I was bound by that. I had these things I had to pay for. So I went to work there. Well, luckily I carpooled with my neighbor. He worked there, and he was the purchasing manager over there. And he took an hour lunch, and sometimes he worked a little over, so I had time after work. So I spent that time after work trying to learn the trade. I taught myself how to weld. I taught myself how to operate all the equipment. So I learned everything I could about the equipment that this company sold. Within a year, I was building everything. Year and a half, I was the service manager for the 11 western states. I was not even 21 years old yet. And I'm not saying this to boast, but I got lucky. And the reason I got lucky is 3 other people applied for the job, and they had an industrial psychologist that gave us a test. And I thought, this is stupid. Why am I doing this? These guys all have more experience. They're all older. Why am I doing this? But I did it for the heck of it. I took the test. I get the job. So I asked my boss, why did I get the job? And they said, because on the test, you scored very high in problem solving. I said, I did. Didn't seem very hard to me. Those problems were easy. And so for me, I was blessed and just fortunate enough to be able to solve problems. But that's a key thing as an entrepreneur or any business person or anything in life, is to be able to solve problems. Because I got to tell you right now, you're going to be faced with a ton of them. Well, I worked over there, made changes in the company, and all the different types of things. Made that company pretty darn successful. Well, after 10 years, I was driving back from a little place called Willits, California, Northern California, visiting my wife's parents on Labor Day weekend in September. And as I was driving back, I said, man, I'd love to live up here. Problem is I need a job. And I started thinking, maybe now's the time. I'm getting old. I'm 29. I think I ought to start a business. I've always wanted to do this. I think I want to start a business. And after all, if I fail, I'll still be young enough to be back in the workforce. So I'm going to do it. My wife said, you're crazy. You got a good job. We have a nice house. We have 3 kids. You know what? I'm going to do it. I was so excited. We were driving back on the highway. I couldn't think of anything else but being able to start this job and having this opportunity. Wasn't paying attention. Looked to my left. There's a highway patrolman, light blazing with his finger. So I pull over, and they roll down the window. He goes, do you realize how fast you were going? And you know what? I'm so excited. I'm starting my own business. He goes, congratulations. I hope you do real well. Hope you make a lot of money. You're going to need it to pay for this ticket. Didn't care. Went home in September. Started trying to figure out what I would need to open up my own company. Went through all of the different things. Went to the local bank and said, hey, I need to borrow some money. I'm going to start my own business. This time for real, they said, we need a 5-year business plan. We need a pro forma. We need a balance sheet. We need to know all of these. I didn't have any of that. The banker, hey, listen, I'm really good at what I do. Just loan me the money. How much? I said, $50,000. Well, no, you need all this stuff. Well, I had to go figure out how to do it. So I did. I wrote a business plan. Started writing it down. Started doing a pro forma. Come back to the bottom, figure I needed to make a profit, right? All businesses have to make a profit. I'd put in the cost, come down, there wasn't enough profit. That was easy. I just changed the sales number, made that higher. And if it didn't look good enough, I just reduced the cost. Man, business was easy. I had 5 years of nothing but profits. I was killing it. This business couldn't have been any easier than this. So I give my business plan over there. He says, how are you going to get the sales? Well, I'm just tell people I do this stuff, and they're just going to come flocking to me. I said, well, I'm sorry, you're not going to get the loan. I was devastated. It was a big bank, big national bank. Anyway, so I went back up to go visit the area we were going to open up in Willett. So I went to the little local bank, Bank of Willett. And in there, the banker, and there's Marv Lawrence, my favorite banker. Loved the guy. Went in there, I said, I want to open a bit. What do you want to do? I handed him my 5-year business plan. He took it like that, and he pushed it aside. He goes, what are you going to do? And I told him what I wanted to do. I'm going to open a shop. I'm going to do this. Here's my skills. All of these kinds of things. And he said, you know, this area needs somebody like you here. How much do you need? I said, $50,000. He started looking through. He goes, no, I think you need $60,000. So he went out and said, we'll do an SBA loan. And we got the loan. You know what the difference was between him and a lot of bankers? Not all bankers, but a lot of bankers. He was an entrepreneur trapped in a banker's body. He didn't want to know about a 5-year business plan. Trust me. I've done so many 5-year business plans in my lifetime, I'm sick of it, okay? And I can't remember any of them that really kind of came out the way I thought. Some did better, some did worse. But what you really need is somebody that understands what you can do, and you need to be able to convey that you can do it. You need to find a need in the old thing and fill it. And I happen to do that. So I started AM&D. That was another thing. Advanced Manufacturing Development. I tried to remember the name of the company to come up with a name, and I said, well, I need something that'll be first in the phone book, okay? Because we didn't have any other way to advertise it. So I said, I need something that starts with an A. I was going to use Acme Manufacturing, but that reminded me too much of the Roadrunner cartoons, and with Acme this and Acme that. And so I came up with Advanced because I thought that would tell a story. And I thought don't want to be advanced welding. I think I want to do manufacturing. That broadened it, so I made it to Advanced Manufacturing. And I thought, you know what? I love to develop new ideas. That's the thing. I need to have my own product. I need to be able to come up with those kinds of things. So I added development to it. So if anybody had an idea, like you guys have these ideas, you're coming in here. By the way, before you turn them over to him to come see me, and I'll show you how to make money with it. So come to me. So I took it to AM, Advanced Manufacturing and Development. That was a long, hello, this is Advanced Manufacturing and Development. That was like way too long. And so I kind of shortened down to Advanced, and then I went to the acronyms AM&D. And that's what it became known. I started out in the first few years, it was a struggle. But I'm a genius at timing, okay? December 1976, I opened my business. January 1st, 1977, guess who was president? Jimmy Carter. Inflation, 16%. Prime rate, 22%. What timing? I opened up a new business with the worst economic president in the whole world, in the history of the world. But somehow I got through there. But I knew I needed to expand and go bigger. So in 1981, I decided, hey, things got to be getting better. We got rid of this guy. Let's go ahead and try to do something different. So I decided to build a new building, really expand. So I did all this, going to build this building, 56,000 square feet. Now let me just tell you, I was in 3,000 square feet. I'm going to build this thing 56,000 square feet. How am I going to finance it? I didn't have any money. Okay. So I found a piece of land, went to the landowner, talked to him, gave him my idea, and said, maybe you can work with me. I went to the city and said, hey, is there anything you can do? They didn't have any money. Banks wouldn't touch it with the 10-foot pole. Okay. So I found this thing about small cities block grants. And I started reading about it. And so I wound up working on it, did all the work for the city, and got them $2 million through a small cities block grant, to make the story shorter. And then I borrowed it all. Problem was, the building was $2.5 million. So I was still $500,000 short. So I decided to get a little creative. So I got the city to take a partial first, the landowner 100% financially to take a second, the city to take a third, 2 private people to take them. Anyway, when all said and done, I had 7 trust deeds on the piece of property. I didn't come up with any money out of my own pocket. I love that. They call me No Down Gary. I have a history for that. I say we should buy anything we possibly can without your own money, okay? Anyway, so I built the building, opened it up 83. What happened in 83? One of the worst recessions we ever had. What timing. I got this brand new building when right in the middle of a recession. It was devastating. I had changed banks because I got bigger. I was being with the National Bank. They come in 6 months after I opened up my new building, in the middle of the depression, and say, we're going to disengage. We're going to pull all of the money that we loaned in Mendocino County, where we're taking out. The bank's closing its branches, we're getting out of there. You have 90 days to pay off your working capital line. I said, this is going to put me out of business. Not our problem. Now, this wasn't their local banker. This was their hatchet man. His last name was Van Hook. I called him Captain Hook. I said, you got to be kidding me. I'm going to go out of business. He said, that's not a problem, but here's the card. This is a company that will help you unwind and help you sell on a orderly liquidation so you can pay the bank off. These guys were located in San Francisco at the Transamerica building. So I drove over to the Transamerica building, went up and over there, talked to these guys, and they said, yeah, we'll screw over your vendors, we'll screw over this person, screw over that person, we'll get you out, you'll walk away, we'll get rid of all your employees, let everybody hold the bag, and by the way, it's going to cost you $100,000 for us to do that for you. Jumped in the car, drove back in 2 hours. I thought to myself, how could I do that to all those people? My employees, my vendors, my customers, the people who helped me out. I couldn't do it. I said, there's got to be some way to come out of this thing. So I went back to Van Hook and says, can you give me, excuse me, anyway, I hate to even mention his name. It brings tears to my eyes today. I said, is there anything else I could do? No, you've got to have the money. Now you only have 60 days. Man, I don't know what I can do. I said, well, you know what? I'm going to come up with the money. Don't close me down. I will come up with the money. He says, there's no way in the world. Companies like yours are dropping like flies. Every single day we see those companies just like yours going out of business. Then it dawned on me. They're all dropping like flies. What if I was the last fly? What if I could outlast those people? What if I could do something at that time when things seem so desperate that would allow me to get past all this? So I did. I went to my vendors, said I need 90 days. Went to my customers, I need all the work I can get. I went to my creditors and pleaded with them to say, if I go down, you guys are done. I think I could pull this together. And I've been faithful to you guys for 7 years. I paid everything I said I'd pay. And I fulfilled every promise I did. Can you help me now? They did. And I got through it. When I paid off Mark Van Hook that money and I had to go to my kid's orthodontist, and he loaned me $75,000 to finish up the last chunk I needed. And he said, you know, not only do I want to loan it to you because I can't pay you back, he said, I'll take a little piece of your business. So I gave him a little tiny piece. And it saved me. We turned the company around, and I said, you know what? When all these other flies are dying, they've got other customers too. So I went out and started buying up all these businesses for nothing. So you're going out of business. Tell your supplier, I'll take all of your inventory. Tell your customer, I'll supply everything you do, and I'll finish all your work in process. Everybody else was dying. I was booming. We had more work than we knew what to do with. And we continued to grow the company and grow the company and grow the company. I started out in 1,200 square feet. When I sold the business to a public utility in 1995, I had 365,000 square feet, 650 employees, and doing $65 million a year, and making more money than I ever should have. And I don't say that to boast. I only say that it's possible. Anybody can do it. There's not a person in this room that's not smarter than I am. Did you ever hear me talk about any university I went to or college? I didn't go. And I regret that. It would have been so much easier had I had an education and really knew what I was doing. Okay? But the thing I did have was a tenacity to not lose. I'm extremely competitive. 41 grandkids. If we play checkers, I give them no quarter. Okay? I don't think you should. They need to know that this is a competitive life, and you've got to be tough, and you've got to be competitive. So anyway, I sold the money. I sold the business, made a ton of money. My little investor for $75,000. His return, $8.2 million. Good investment for him. He saved my life. People ask, man, don't you wish you wouldn't have sold that little piece off to Dr. So-and-so? I said, are you kidding me? I wouldn't have been here. I use my favorite math thing. If I'm not here, what's 100% of nothing? Nothing. So sometimes you have to give a little. Sometimes you have to give up to get. Well, there I was, 48 years old, business sold. What am I going to do? Because this business was very varied. We were the largest. I bought a wood company. My partner said, why are you buying this wood company? I said, I don't know. I just think it's a good idea. So we do precision sheet metal, Hewlett-Packard, Cisco, IBM. What are we going to do? I don't know. I just think it's a good idea, so I bought it. Where are you going to put it? I don't know. But there's an empty building that the city owns that a company just built, went broke, lost all the bond money. It's 100,000 square feet. What are we going to do with 100,000 square feet? This is my first big jump after the 56,000 square feet. This is easy. I'll go to the city and we'll get a good deal. So I went to the city. I said, we want to rent the building. How much? I said, 6 cents a square foot. He goes, are you kidding me? I said, no. He said, well, that's ridiculous. I said, well, how much are you getting now? Nothing. That's a no-brainer. Here's 6 cents a square foot. And I said, I promise you I'll create new jobs. I put the wood company in there. We were building displays, point-of-purchase displays. I thought I would kind of spread out and do that. Terrible idea. Okay. I couldn't make a penny, but I had all this machinery, 100,000 square foot building, and a bad business. I said, well, you know, I've got a metal business here. What can the two put together? Anyway, I was taking one of my kids to an arcade, and I saw these new arcade games getting bigger, and they have all this stuff over. I go, I bet you we could build those. So I went to Atari, Namco, Sega. First year that we started to build arcade games, I did 1.2 million. Year 2, 19 million. We were the largest manufacturer of arcade games in the world. You know why? Because the yen and the dollar were upside down. Too expensive to make them in Japan, so they were making them all here in the U.S. We were killing it. Didn't know anything about arcade games. Didn't know anything about wood. But it was an opportunity, and we took it. Well, we sold the company, went off. They wanted me to stay there for 5 years. First 2 years, I grew the company even more. Made the company good money. But then they decided that they wanted to take it to the next level. And they said, hey, I know we got a 5-year contract with you. We'll continue paying you. But we're going to bring a businessman in from Detroit. Got a master's degree from Michigan State. An MBA. Ran the largest GM plant over there. We think he can take this company to the next level. And he did. After 1 year, we went from 70 million down to 30 million. Yeah, he took us to the next level, just the wrong level. Because there's a difference. That business, when you're an entrepreneur and it's yours, you put your heart and soul into it. When he lost our biggest customer, Cisco Systems, that we were doing $30 million a year with, okay, they said, you know what? We don't like some company that's our supplier who's run by a bunch of people on a board of directors. You could close at any time. And I remember they brought me back in there to try to save this thing. He said, well, don't you think you have any loyalty to Gary? He said, look at all he's done for you. And he goes, we have a ton of loyalty to Gary, but he doesn't own the business anymore. And the big difference between him and you is he would turn heaven and earth to make sure things went well for us. And that's what entrepreneurs do. They turn heaven and earth to be successful. Well, I left that, still got paid. That was really kind of nice. Went to another guy. I was getting ready to take my whole family, since I had this rest of this time off, to Hawaii. That's all my kids, grandkids. At that time, which we didn't have very many, but we still had 10 kids and their wives, to go on a trip to Hawaii. I get a phone call from a customer, one of my old customers, that said, hey, we've got some real problems here. This company, Atlantic Entertainment, it's just, they need some help. Could you come and do something? So I said, I'm going to Hawaii. Can you please come? So I said, well, all right, I'll do it as a favor. I went over there, looked at the company. It was a mess. Didn't know anything about software or that kind of business. But I did look at it, could see there was a lot of things that were just seemed to be plain. So I made some changes, gave a guy a 5-page report, flew back home to get ready for 2 days before, they called me and says, can you go to New York and make this presentation on this? I said, what are you talking about? I got to leave for Hawaii. We need to come over here. We'll pay you $10,000. I'll be on the next plane. So I fly to New York. I give the presentation. It was a company that was owned out of South Africa. And so they had the board there and everything. They said, tell us why you want to change this. You don't want to make this for real gambling. You want to make this play for fun. You want to have a back office. This is nothing like our business model. I said, I just think it's the right way to go. I think internet gaming is bad. I don't think you ought to do that. But if you have to protect the backside, we can do it. But casinos love to be able to market to their people. Just have one play for fun. How are you going to make any money for play for fun? And we have to make sure it's certified. Big job to certify this thing. The book was that thick. He showed it to me. He said, I've got to get this certified. Anyway, we finished dinner. I don't think it's for me. Anyway, he made me an offer I couldn't refuse. Flew back home and I told my wife, guess what? I'm the CEO of this Atlantic Entertainment. What do you know about this? I don't know anything, but I think I can find people that do. And that's what entrepreneurs do. They find other people. I hate the work. I like working, but I don't want to do the work. I find good people that can do the work for me. I'm a master at finding good people and avoiding like the hard stuff. I'm not even sure I can do the computer things. I'll probably need some help with that too. I'm technically challenged. So we took over the company. When the first meeting we took the book, we laid it down over there, and said, we got to get it certified. He goes, you know what kind of work that is? I said, it's a lot. But my statement to him was this, and I'll ask you the same one. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Page 1. Anyway, 8 months later, we were certified. The company had a piece of software. We sold these discs for $1 million a piece and $25,000 a month as a fee to use our software program. It was unbelievable. But we wanted to move everything to Australia. We had an office in Australia and South Africa. Didn't like South Africa. Nice place to visit. Wouldn't want to live there. Loved Australia. Too far from my family to go. So I walked away from the business, sold my stock, and let that go over. Then I got bored again. What am I going to do now? Loved Hawaii. Went back and forth. Opened up a business in Hawaii. Island Riders. We rented Harley Davidsons and exotic cars. It was great. Had a reason to go over there and play golf. Something for my son to do. We started with one little store, then we went to 3 stores. Great business, a lot of fun. Hated Hawaii. So I came back over here, let my sons and grandsons run it. Things started coming left and right. Businesses, opportunities everywhere. We don't have enough time. If I could spend a minute on every business I've started in my lifetime, it would have taken up the whole 50 minutes. So this last one, and how do you turn it on to get the picture on there? Because I had this gaming thing, I had met this Indian tribe in a gaming thing selling our software for operations, and they were having trouble getting their land and trust. They wanted to buy a piece of property. They couldn't figure out how to come up with the money for the property. They couldn't work with their developer, who was a wealthy guy from Chicago, an entrepreneur himself, bought a big chunk of land out there to put a NASCAR racing venue out there. NASCAR wouldn't do it. He owns all this property, free and clear, millions of dollars free and clear. And tribe wanted to buy this little piece of property from him. They didn't have any money. So they asked me to fly this guy and see if I could negotiate something. So I did. I sat down and went through all these things. Wound up getting that piece of property for the tribe for $7 million with nothing down and no payments for 10 years. Okay? Because what I did is I convinced the guy that if you put this here, you know what the rest of your property is going to be worth? He goes, they won't let me put a track there. I said, we don't need a track. We need to do something else. Does anybody know where Branson, Missouri is? Anybody heard of Branson? Okay, it's the Disneyland for old people. Okay? It's a entertainment venue for has-beens. It really is. I mean, that's what it is. But us old people like the has-beens because we can understand the new people. You know, all of their stuff that they do, they don't interest me. And guess what? I'm a baby boomer. And so are millions and millions and millions of other baby boomers. So I thought, why don't we build a West Coast Branson? We'll call it Silver City. Silver, okay, for old people. And we'll do an entertainment venue here. And I said, we'll do 7 different entertainment venues. You know, 7, how that's kind of been a part. Later on, we'll talk about the 7 C's if I don't run out of time. Okay. I was 7 years old when I started. 7 different entertainment venues. We have Hollywood. We have Broadway. We have the old rock and roll venue. We have a Latin venue, an Asian venue, a New Orleans jazz venue. We have 7 different venues for old people. Okay? We have a water park for the kids. We're going to build 5,000 homes for 55 and older with a golf course. My son, one of my sons who's the entrepreneur, he bought some healthcare business 4 years ago. He says, Dad, I'm working for this guy making him a ton of money. I want to buy my own healthcare centers, skilled nursing. So he told me about some that were available. I go, wow, that's a lot of money. He said, yeah, Dad, I need $4 million. Checked my wallet, didn't have $4 million. I said, why do you need that? He said, I need that for the down payment. I said, I don't think you will. I think we can get it for nothing. We did. Make a long story short. We got the owner to carry everything. Not one penny. 4 years ago, 2 healthcare centers. He has 6. He's building a 7th one. Not one penny out of his pocket. And why? Because there's always a way if you're creative. But anyway, so we decided one of the things we're going to put in here amongst a lot of different things. I know how to do this much. Watch this here, buddy. Whoops, wrong button. This just showed our market over there, where we have the center, where the property is. Looked at all of the business and surrounding customers. Looked at all of these great things. By the time I finished showing him this, he was ready to go. He says, this will do it. And we should start building this coming February. Knew nothing about land development, only that there was a piece of land and a need. There's got to be a way to make some money at this. That's what entrepreneurs do. They figure out a way to make money. And there's nothing wrong with money. Money isn't everything. It really isn't. But it's really nice. Okay? There's a lot of people who do wonderful. Let me tell you, the professors and teachers you have over here, they're not in it for the money. They're in it for what they feel is good in their lives. And I say my hat's off to them. And we should thank them because they teach you so you can be nice to them because they're going to be your future customers. It's not about the money, but money makes it nice. All right, so let's look at this. What we need to do are my 7 C's. First of all, you need to be committed. If you're not committed to be an entrepreneur, you're wasting your time. Don't even do. After this class, go get in a statistics class, okay? Because if you're not committed to do this, you will not be successful. You got to be confident. You know, there's a few things I lack, but one of them is in confidence. I've always been confident, and I don't know why. And I think everybody can be. It's not an acquired thing. It's a trait that you can either have or you don't, or if you don't, work on it. Be creative. Man, you've got to look at it. You can't, I hate this thing, okay. Think out of the box. I hate those. When I did work for the high-tech people, that's all these, we always tell when somebody went to a seminar, they came up with a new buzz phrase, catchphrase, right? Let's think out of the box, but you really do. 7 trust deeds on a piece of property, growing a business during a recession, getting into a business you know nothing about, works for me. Competitive. And I don't just mean being competitive on your pricing. You have to do that in any business, and you'll learn that in any business class. You've got to be competitive. I'm talking about being a competitive person, not wanting to lose, okay? Doesn't matter when things get tough. You can't want to lose. You have to hold on with every fiber of your being. I can't tell you how many times I was on the brink of disaster. I don't even want to tell you how many millions I've lost in bad ideas. I didn't tell you any of those. We need 2 of these things to tell you all the bad ones. But the key thing was this. I've made more good ones than bad ones. That's what you got to do. So as long as you can make more than you lose, banker, there's a profit, right? That's what it's all about. Cash flow. Most important thing in business. I was going to put it up there, but that's a whole nother one. I didn't worry about profits. I worry about cash flow. Cash is it. Cash is king. That's why I never put any money down. Credible. You got to be a person of your word. You've got to have good credibility. When I went to my vendors and told them that I could do this, they believed me because I had done everything I promised to do. And then when I couldn't do it, I went to them before they called me up. okay, and told him I couldn't do this and this is why, but here was my plan to get it fixed. Credibility is huge in being an entrepreneur. Courageous. I'll tell you what, if you're a chicken, you're not an entrepreneur. You've got to have guts. You've got to do things that are absolutely, this was one of my, there used to be 9 up here that are crazy. And you have to have the courage to do it. You have to have the faith in yourself that you can do these things. And if you're not willing to take a chance, you're not going to make it. Because there's a big difference about going into business and buying a business or going one's already started. Yeah, there's some risk, but not as much as starting your own. Okay? There's also a big difference of being an entrepreneur and saying, you know what, I'm going to open up a restaurant, and you open up a fine restaurant, and you make good money, and you run that restaurant your whole life. People call that an entrepreneur. I call it a business person. Entrepreneur opens up 1 restaurant, then 2, then 3, and then franchises. That's an entrepreneur. But we need all kinds. We need the normal people, we need the business people, and we need the entrepreneurs. Seize the opportunity. I told you I went to high school. I don't spell real well, okay? Seize the opportunity. And that's actually a twofold, okay? A good entrepreneur sees the opportunity, and a smart one seizes the opportunity. They're everywhere. You will not believe how many opportunities are there if you'll just look for them. My final thought to you is this. Normal people, most of them, not all of them, dream of a better life. Entrepreneurs, most of them, not all of them, make those dreams come true. Thank you. You got 3 minutes to ask any questions. And whatever I tell you, if you do it and you lose money, I'll deny it. Okay. Any questions? All right, you open the back. You know, people ask me that. I had a home in Hawaii, a home in California. I've always loved Utah. I have a lot of my kids in Utah. My son's a head athletic trainer at BYU. I got lots of kids there. I've just loved Utah. I came here 23 years ago to the Manti pageant, and I loved the area. So I bought a little place here so my kids could go to school here. When I remarried, my wife, current wife, had 2 kids, and I had my youngest daughter, and so she finished up school here. I hated Hawaii. People say, what do you mean, Ephraim or Hawaii? Yep, it's the movie Groundhog Day. That's what Hawaii is like, Groundhog Day. It sucks, okay? There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I love it here. Do I do any business here? You know, it really depends. It's tough. I'm on kind of the economic development for here. I've helped 2 other businesses outside. I'm helping one right now to kind of grow. I've been working with him for a year, and we've quadrupled his business, and he's doing really, really well. So I kind of help other businesses right now. But it's tough. There's some things you have to look at. But I never put anything out of the question if I can find the right deal. Listen, if there's a buck in it, I'm always serious. I'm the hardcore entrepreneur. We didn't even get to that level yet, I'll tell you. I'm a sick entrepreneur, okay? When I start these things, sometimes these business, my wife says, are you sure you want to do this? You know? Sure. What if we lose money? I said, and here's my other famous saying. You know what they say about money? You can always make more. I think the time's up for the kids, but one more question. I'm always accessible. As long as it's not the IRS, you can find me, and I'll tell you, give you my number, whatever. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody. We'll see you next week. Thank you so much, Mr. Ramos.